What's up, guys? Hope everybody had a happy holiday, happy new year, made it into the new year safely, and I hope you have plans for why this year is going to be better than the last one. Let's be honest, this shouldn't be too tough. Last year sucked. Last year was garbage. 2023 was just trash. But 2024, we're going to do something with it. While I have your attention, if you haven't yet, go to www.terpfiend.com, get your poopine head rush, get your poopine drops. We got mad poopines, we got mad gassy terps. Go get them shits now before Mac jumps on. And there's my man Mac. Hope everybody's having a great week though, and hope you guys are getting gassed up. Smoking some blackout truffle this evening. Any evening with blackout truffle is a great evening. Yeah, didn't get much better than that. One second, we'll get Mac in here and we'll get to talking about something. Always, guys, if you guys ever have questions during these, most people always toss them up and we try and kind of get them, as we go. I never really want these to be just us reading comments back and forth out of the chat, but like generally speaking, if we ever hit kind of a slow point in the podcast, then we tend to Mac will grab a couple questions. But yeah, I mean, most people know if you ever need to hit me up about something or you have a question about any of my gear, you can always hit me up. Instagram, email, website. There's 100 ways to get in contact with me. So if you ever have any questions, you're more than welcome to hit them up, hit me up. But that being said, when we do these podcasts, if you guys ever have any questions about my gear, questions about Mac's gear, questions about, anything that I can answer, you're always welcome to get them in. If it's something that I can kind of hit without a whole lot of headache and having to, of course, it's not letting Mac join. There it is. Just got to try 4 or 5 times. Oh, man. I hope that's harvest and not bad news.
Yeah, it's harvest, man. Yeah, we on the reset, man. We on the reset. What up, everybody, man? Sorry, you guys, that we have been lacking, man. We both been tied up, busy, but we are here today, and we are here to give y'all a good show, man. The shit
How you
show.
been, man?
I've been good, man. Great harvest, man. Always excited. It's exciting time. Trim gel and new beginnings. Got a new reset going. This time I'm running a tray full of runts, and then I also have a clone of our Terps and Caicos, man. Some of the most fire bud that I got, man. Matter of fact, I have a clone that I would like to get at you, bro. Like ASAP, man. You need to run that shit, bro. It's fire as shit.
Yeah,
And then I got some caramel grape donuts.
I was about to get some of those going.
The shit show, man. The shit show. So Lowbrow is actually, I think he's in. Yeah, Lowbrow is actually in the chat, man, and he has 3 different phenos of it, man, and he's loving it, posting pictures, and saved me like 6 clones. I'm probably gonna pick up from him within the next week or 2, man. So
Is that
a lot of work over
is
here
that
in the
is,
blunt camp and supply
is
chain.
that
Say it again.
the one of yours that you want me to
Yeah,
run?
that's the caramel grape donuts.
Okay.
Uh, hey, he saved it, man. I don't really have many more, So I even told him, bro, you find a fire cut, I'll name it the lowbrow cut. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lowbrow cut of the caramel grape donuts, which pretty much everybody gonna be running in a second, right? Because
Nice. Nice. I'm still not sure what the lineage on that is.
here's some King Neptune, man. Another project from myself in the supply chain. Great, great connoisseur smoke is what the Wandering Hashishin told me when I gave it to him at the East Coast Connoisseurs Cup. Man, he said it was some great smoke. So
Nice. I think I'm gonna do something a little different with my next run. like generally I do most of mine by flavor profiles. And so I'm usually either doing, I pick a female or pick a male and then kind of stick with a similar profile type of thing. But with this one, I'm going to do more of just hash plants, just heavy
Man,
hash. I just want everything to dump. And then I'm going to start taking some of those and crossing those with some of my other stuff with different flavors and stuff. But just trying to kick in a bunch of new stuff I'm not already working with, heavy hash plants, just dropping resin.
man, dude, you can't never go wrong with a hash plant run or a Kush run, like hands down. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, see, that's the thing is like I'm usually trying to fill slots. So it's usually like I'm trying to have, a citrus strain or I need some gassy stuff or stuff like that. And that's why I tend to do kind of profiles. But I need something new. And I've got some stuff that I'm working with that I think I'm going to use. Some of it's stuff that I have used before. Some of it's stuff that I've been working with that I haven't used before. Um, so it's just kind of, I don't know, man. Like I said, generally I go into it with more of like a flavor
Yeah.
thing. Like I want this to be kind of more in one direction or the other. This time I'm just going to bang a ton of profiles, but the key being just resin, just hash, just
Um,
everything hash, washers.
this go round, we are doing. I'm gonna give my hand a shot at reversals again. We got a couple plants that we've run for maybe 2 years now, and we really, really, really like them. So we're thinking about, well, it's already in the plan. We're gonna reverse it as well as reverse it onto some other different females. So stay tuned for that shit, man. That shit should be fire, and we're actually thinking about doing a release
Right.
on this go around too. So man, I'm excited for that, bro. The last breeding project we did went really well. We got enough seeds for in house, to hunt through it and see what we like, and then take it F2. But right now we're in the testing phase of those shits right now. I mean, even though you know how the saying goes, fire in, fire out. You know what I'm saying? You still got to hunt through and see exactly what you got too, bro. But we definitely should have some fire coming out very soon, man. I know. The supporters are definitely in the inbox. Hey, man, where can we get this? Where can I get this? And I just want to say, man, guys, just keep being patient with us, man. Um, it'll be here soon enough, and when you do get it, it'll be fire. On top of the fact, Turk Fiend's doing the caramel grape donuts potentially this run, so I think it's gonna be a fire 2024, man.
Yeah.
Fucking fire.
I,
Go for it.
um,
There's the
what
happy
was
accidents.
I about to say? Jesus, I lost it.
You were
Anyway.
talking about banging different profiles that you.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I, but to be honest, man, it's just, I've done so much in the last year as far as like trying to re-up all of my staples of having, Nog Champa, Blackout Truffle, Mecha Godzilla, like the strains that are probably the most recognizable.
mhm.
Um, but I've got so much of that stuff, at this point that I've got all of my bases covered for most of my gear. And so, yeah, I mean, it really, not to say I'm not always, that's generally my priority is always resin and hash, but like, yeah, I just want to see if I can make something weird. I'm going to take a couple of different things that I've had a lot of luck with and just try some new things and some different stuff and, just see where it goes.
Yeah. I definitely want to see the Nap Champa come back around, bro. In a different form, or hit to some more stuff, bro. That was very fire. You know what I'm saying? You post pictures a lot of Nap Champa, and some of those photos are like high time quality
Yeah.
photos. You know what I mean? Like that bitch looks like it's some fire, bro.
To work
I
with
think.
the cut that the guys in South Africa run, the one that I show a lot of pictures of from
Mhm.
Leapfrog. They have the one they call the Champa Rose, which is like supposedly like a really rose heavy profile, and
Mhm.
it's the one that they run a lot of, and you see a lot of pictures of on my page. And I haven't really worked with it a lot because I was going through stuff not too long ago and looking for stuff that I want to run. Um, I'm almost at a point where I want to go back and run more of the F1s of the Nag Champa, just because that's where all the
Yeah,
crazy, like really unique stuff has come from. But I'm really interested to run that Champa Rose that those guys run because, dude, I'll tell you what, man, the people in South Africa love some Nag Champa because they've been running it heavy for a long time,
are
and
they
that's
growing it
awesome.
outdoor or indoor?
I think they're doing both now. I think the pictures I posted today looked like they were either outdoor or greenhouse, and then most of the stuff they post previous to has almost always been indoor stuff. But like, dude,
I got you.
it's so funny because those dudes run that stuff so heavy. Like, I've had people in other parts of the world tell me, like, yeah, I heard about Nag Champa from those
Yeah,
guys, which is awesome. I mean, which is awesome.
yeah, for sure. So, how do you think the nab chopper would fare to the blacked out truffle?
I mean, everything. Those are two of my favorite strains, so I don't see why they wouldn't go well together. Like
Yeah,
blackout truffle is one of those things that like I've never really. Most of the crosses that I've made with it have come out really awesome. They're kind of different profiles because the blackout truffle. That's funny because this jar of blackout truffle is like more. This is a different pheno that I hadn't really smoked a ton of. It was from a pheno hunt I did not too long ago, like just looking for new stuff, and it's got like a lot of the chem gassy like mothball stuff on top, but like the camera here sucks so bad and the lighting here sucks so bad. It's so hard to tell. This stuff is black. Like it's absolutely black. But like this was one that like I love everything about it except the profile, and I love the profile, but just not in the way that I usually select for the blackout. Like normally with the blackout, I'm looking for like the more mothball heavy ones. This one kind of almost had like a fruity thing with some chem stuff to it. It's dank. I mean, it slaps you
see,
around.
I
It's
think that's
dank.
the pheno I had, bro. Remember, I was telling you because you kept on saying you like, bro, there's no fruit. I'm like, bro, I am catching
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
heavy
I
chili
haven't seen a
fruit,
lot
bro,
of it, to be honest. And it's
and it's
really, to be
blacked
honest,
out.
the plant when I was growing it, it didn't have any of that. It was all chem. And then once it dried, yeah, and it's not super, I wouldn't say it's super fruity. Like it's kind of just one of those almost
It's
like that.
there.
Yeah,
It's an
almost.
undertone.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Almost like that point where kind of Afghan berry wine type of thing. Um, yeah, 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 yeah. You're right. It is, and it's like most of the ones that I've had have been more towards the chem side, to be honest, and those are generally ones I select a little bit more for. But yeah, it's been awesome. Um, and I think those two would go great together. The Nog Chop was just a pure hash strain. Like the Blackout Truffle makes amazing hash as well, but generally speaking, the heads aren't like if we're comparing it to like massive yielding strains that throw down in the upper microns, it's not it. It throws tons at 70, 90, like, the money bag, but like it's not, you're not going to get a ton of 160 out of it.
But who
Whereas
uses
that's,
that shit
I
though?
mean, if you can get if your strain throws down in the 120 to 160 bag, yeah, man, that's the biggest. Like those are massive heads. Like those are
Dude,
huge
I
heads.
thought. See, I always discard that part, bro. I didn't know that you were supposed to keep that part. Like I always was
Well,
always under the impression that
see, here's
that's
the
the
thing.
bad.
Like if it's most strains, you're not going to get a ton of big micron
Yeah.
unless you run a huge batch because most strains are going to be more in the like 70, 90, maybe even 120. If you get big heads, if you get a strain that throws down lots of big heads, that's what everybody wants because generally speaking, the oil to wax ratio on those bigger heads is a lot higher. There's a ton more oil to wax. So like when you press it, generally speaking, like that's if you get a strain that puts out
Yeah.
like in that in the upper microns, and that's the money. Like that's what everybody wants right now. And that's what everybody, these days it's all about, well, does it dump? Well, that's great because now there's millions of strains out there that just throw down tons of water hash. Then I ask you a couple other questions. What bags does it throw down in? Does it press well? How much am I going to lose to the bag? What's the finished profile going to be?
Right.
Like, these are all questions that, you know, average Joe Schmo hash maker just gets into pulling his own strains and wanting to wash. You know, these aren't things you really think of. You just go, holy shit, it throws tons of hash. I'm just going to get super excited and run nothing but
Right.
this now. And then you realize, well, there's big head strains out there now.
I tend to wash, especially because of plant count, I tend to wash all of my strands together, and I never typically just grow all of one strand. So I never get to put a finger on, hey, this strand dumps and this strand dumps. I just know if I got hash or not. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, and see, for me, usually the easiest way, I mean, there's two kind of quick ways. You can just do a little jar test, which is what a lot of
yeah,
people do now. That way you don't waste a ton of material. You just take a measured sample, wash it in a small jar, and then you kind of see what falls. The other way for me is if I'm already trimming it, like I have a pretty good eye for if I'm trimming bud and I'm just literally seeing piles of keef everywhere just from handling it, touching it, it's just
yeah,
falling off like snow. It's usually a good sign. That's usually good sign number one, you know? Then you always want to do like a jar test or a sample wash or something like that. But it's a good way to kind of, if you don't have maybe massive amounts, that's a good way to kind of do a small sample and
yeah.
be able to still see, you know.
The potential. Yeah, before it's crazy, man. You mentioned the test wash. Before I was under the guidance of shout out to the hash rookie. I knew nothing about test wash, and I did a test wash, recorded it, posted to Instagram, bro, and I got like 200,000 views on that shit, bro. Like people asking, "What are you doing? What are you?" Nah, it wasn't that many, but it like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And I was like, "Yes, test washing, bro." Um, because the material that I washed was purple, right? And by the way, I finally seen some purple hash, bro. Motherfuckers, like I finally seen it. I sent it to Hash Rookie, bro, but for some odd reason it wouldn't play for him. But I was like, yeah, it's dope as fuck. I feel a little bit of greasy in the flour is better than just straight sand trikes.
Ooh.
Yeah, me.
So
Yeah, my.
here's the issue. We get into a real weird thing because so essentially the difference is the amount of cuticle, the amount of waxy membrane that's around your oil ball, right? If we'll just think of it that way, or how much wax to oil there is there. If you have a strain with extremely thin heads, it's just going to get beat up in the wash. It's not going to handle as well. And I tend to find strains like that tend to have resins that are just super greasy and wet. And when you touch them, it's just super oily. Those are great BHO strains. Those strains don't always make great water
I
hash. The
didn't think
reason
so.
this kind of sandier trichomes, once again,
It's
it's a
heavier.
balance. Yeah, because true 6-star water hash stuff you don't need to press is usually it's a holy grail because not only does that membrane have to be thick enough to hold up to the beating of the agitation in the water and not just explode all in your water, but it also has to be thin enough that once it's extracted, the ratio of oil to wax is significantly higher so that when you put it on a nail, there's no residue. It's just all oil. And that's why we say number one is size, because those bigger heads are generally going to have more oil to wax. Generally speaking, it's not always the case, but generally speaking. But you, like you said, what's up, Weed Man? With a lot of strains, your average strains throws down a ton of 70. You might run, 20 pounds worth, and you might only have a small amount of high micron because there's not a ton of big heads. Whereas these days, that's kind of what a lot of people are wanting is those strains that wash, but they throw down in those big bags.
Yo, check out Hash Rookie comment. Oh shit. Yeah, but I've never smoked any purple hash, and the day I do, I'll go live and I'll tell y'all if if it's some fire, if it's some booth, like, but just to see it, accumulate. And, it was at least about maybe 3-4 ounces on that paper,
So
just straight
what homie
purple hash.
said is pretty important. So he said essentially there really is purple hash, generally speaking. Purple hash, if it's really purple, it's because the plant produces
Purple resin.
anthocyanin in the head,
Yeah.
within the trichome head. So you can have a strain where it produces purple up the stalk. And as he said, a lot of the strains that you see that are purple tend to be that. They tend to be strains that have purple stalks.
Hmm.
So when you're making sift or water hash, it looks purplish, but the reality is your heads aren't purple.
Still.
Strains that actually put out true purple heads are fairly rare, even within progeny of purple
Yeah.
strains. It's fairly uncommon. And I will be the first to say that I don't know that I've ever encountered, as somebody's going to tell me I'm bullshitting, I don't think I've ever seen a true 6-star that was purple. And the reason being, once it's purple, you know you've got dye in there, which means you've got something that's not oil, THC, resin, it's not exactly what you want. So I've seen a lot of people bitch about them. I have had rosin, purple rosin, that was much better than purple melt because the purple melt almost always burns kind of shitty.
It's
There's a
dirt.
few exceptions. I've had a couple of batches of Tropicana cookies that had purple heads that was that, but then it's usually not dark purple. It's usually almost like a grayish, like light lavender color.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yep.
It's almost never the ones that tend to be really, really purple, like Hash Rookie said, are usually either contaminants or it's just low grade. It doesn't end up melting all that well. It's like 3 or 4-star,
I,
but it's purple as all hell.
I'll tell you a short story under the instruction of Hash Rookie. So I had been watching for probably about an hour and a half, right? And every now and then the Hash Rookie will hit me up and was like, let me see. So I show him a bag, right? And he looks at it, he goes, you didn't wash that. That's dirty. And I had to laugh because I skipped the step because I was tired, bro. I was beat, And he was like, "You didn't wash that. It's too dirty." And I was like, "All right, you're right, bro." So I go back and wash it, show him again, and it's like not purple anymore, bro, because I washed all the contaminants out. And for people who make ice water hash, man, don't skip that step, bro. That is an important step. It doesn't seem like you're doing all that much when you just, however you're washing. I usually do mine in the sink where you're just taking the hose and you're spraying the hash down inside of the sift bag, right? Well, what you're essentially doing is spraying out the contaminants that actually got through the sieve and washing those out to try to get that pure 5-6 star hash that melts away that everyone so craves. So I would advise do not skip that step. It's very important.
I mean, the truth is, like, we don't really talk about the star system a lot these days because it's not, I don't feel like you hear about it as much now as you did, 10 years ago. And I will say, too, I think a lot of that is just largely because so many people are pressing so much into rosin. So I think you're seeing a lot less of that 2, 3, 4-star stuff, I've always been of the opinion that true 6-star, nothing but oil, leaves nothing on your nail. True 6-star is rare. It's
Yeah.
it's it's super rare because it really is the confluence of a million different variables that have to all go right. And it's not just how it was grown. It's not just genetics. It's not just how it was washed. It's all of it. And it's largely genetics, because a lot of it, head size, oil production, things like this. I mean, you can only do so much in your grow. You can only dial it in so much. A healthy plant's a healthy plant. Fully optimized is fully optimized. So at the end of the day, like, it takes all of these different variables. And that's like when people find that strain, when they hunt through 10,000 seeds and they find that one, that's why hash makers where they hold them motherfuckers with a white
Yeah,
fist. Hard as you can
yeah.
hold them. They're not letting them go and that's not the one where the homie ends up getting it and it sneaks out and it's nah. Those dudes put in the time. When you find that plant that throws down that holy grail 6-star, boy, you wash that fucker till you can't wash it anymore.
Yeah.
And that's usually the strains that like when you hear shit's hype and all these people want this hype strain and that hype strain, those aren't really the best strains. Those are the ones that the people talk about the most. The best strains are the one that somebody's washing that's throwing 7% in the 160 bag. They're getting 90% press out of it. It's 80%
But
6-star. You
a lot
know, I
of those
mean,
strands that people see, and they, I Google over, right, with the large, super frosty white buds, right? A lot of that shit is just stock. A lot of it doesn't even have heads to even wash off
there's a
correctly,
lot
bro.
of
I was
that. But here's what's funny, and I was going to make a meme about this week. Why is it when you see all of those super frosty strains, nobody ever talks about what it smells like? Nobody ever talks about the profile. It's just look at how much resin there is. And it's like, wow, that's really cool. It's really awesome. Man, the reality is that's just not it. That's just,
Hey, so this is a question to Hash Rookie. If you can answer it in the comments. So what strands do you tend to run out there where you're at that you're having the most success with getting those 4 or 5? And if you're making 6-star hashes, I know you told on our podcast you listed a couple breeders, but what's the strand names that you're
So
washing well
let
with?
me be a little more specific because this is kind of like asking somebody what's a strain going to yield in water hash, right? I could point you in the direction, right? I could tell you strains that would be more likely than not to produce a strain like that, a cut like that.
Hmm.
But the reality is, you still got to do the legwork. Like, you
Yeah.
still got to get in there. You got to do the selection. You got to wash the individual plants. You've got to find that diamond in the rough. Because the truth is, even if you get a strain, like let's say I can tell you, okay, these strains are going to be better at having bigger heads. That doesn't necessarily mean the oil to wax ratio is going to be perfect. It doesn't. See, 6-star, when we talk about 6-star, and if we're being as brutally honest as we can, 6-star is a unicorn. And like Hash Tricky said, it's very tough to grow true 6-star plants because the strains that are going to produce 6-star aren't always going to hold up super well to the water because
Or,
you've got this
or
balance of like small or big heads, low wax, right? So if you do too much agitation, you're going to beat the shit out of them and you're just going to bust them open and you're not going to get, and it's just, it's not only a balance, it's a grow, it's having things dialed in. And I'm going to be honest, man, people that can produce 6-star, it doesn't happen forever. There is this thing where it's like it's a perfect confluence of grow, extraction, genetics, and everything has to be perfect. Now, I'm not going to dodge the question. If you're looking for out of my gear, if we're looking at strains that we want bigger heads, right? I would say the Nag Champa. I would say there were 2 in the pineapple sorbet round. There was one that was with the flavor crystals. I'd have to look at which one it was. That flavor crystals cut that I used throws these massive heads that are just obscenely large, and they tend to really hold up well with washing. Um, I'm trying to think of just recently out of this pooping drop, the 501st OG Deep Chunk, the F2, the Royal Headrush F2, the Hit the Gas, the Royal Goo Cross did really well for me. But once again, man, if I told you those and you went and ran all of them and you didn't find the 6-star plant, you would swear I'm lying to you.
right, right.
But the reality is, all I can kind of do is
Yeah,
point you in the direction.
yeah.
You may still have hundreds of plants to run. And that's why people that do that sort of pheno hunt work, they tend to just run as much as they can. So you run, maybe 50 strains at once and you wash each one. And, as much as you can, you do test washes and do stuff like that. Because really finding that needle in a haystack, it's not as easy as just run one strain. Like
No, so
you might run a
it's
ton
something that you
and
mentioned.
then narrow it down a little bit.
Again, it's too many combination factors that have to go right for you to get 6 star. Like for instance, user error. Under the guidance of the hash rookie, I was watching my plants, right, and he was like, "Hey man, when was the last time you cleaned your bags?" Well, I didn't even know. I just wash them. Check them out. He was like, because you know the seeds get dirty and clogged, and they will stop dropping
Yeah.
heads. And so I take alcohol, I soak it, shake it out, wring it, let it dry, and then go back and run the same shit, and the floodgates open. You know what I mean? So
You
user error as
you
well,
want to
bro.
know if this is changing, this I think with some of the new technology, what I'm about to say is about to change. So I don't think it's going to be like this for long. One of my favorite pastimes for the last decade has been going to the top hash producers in the country and looking through their macros and finding the ones that don't wash their bags. And you can almost always tell because there's black shit in their hash. They've got specks in their macros and they try
Yep.
to crop them. They try to find but now a
Yeah.
lot of that's changing with a lot of technology with like stainless steel sieves and stuff like that.
Hmm.
A lot of that's changing drastically, and that stuff's so much easier to clean than like nylon bags and stuff. That's
No, for sure.
that's stuff horrible to try and
Yeah.
clean. Like just
Yeah.
once it gets greasy and nasty, there's not a ton because pouring alcohol on it makes it worse. Like
Say
you really have
white
to keep
flakes
everything
from
just
hot water
stupidly
dry on
clean.
the flakes, flaking off. See, there's another one, bro. He didn't even teach me that one, bro. I didn't even think about looking at that. He said white flakes from hard water drying on the bags and then flaking off
Nah, bro,
into
that's
the
just
bag.
that's just extra calcium. It helps your banger get that char, that season, like a cast iron pot, man. You got to do those dabs before you can do the other dabs, and it just adds to the flavor of the next dab, bro. Come on, that's
Man, Hash
rookie shit.
Rookie, you
That's
need a
rookie
show,
shit.
bro. Hash Rookie needs a show of just, a how-to
I
hash,
swear
bro.
this is not the hash rookie hour. That was not the. But the truth
Bro,
is,
but
he has
hash, we're
been
talking
he
about
has
hash,
been
bro.
he
Like,
has been upping both of our hash game lately. So I do have to give him props.
no, no shit, bro. No shit. But
Yeah.
anyway, bro, enough about hash, bro. Enough about just, no, hash is the shit, bro. We can make a whole show just on hash,
Well, I mean, to be honest, man, like that's it's easy to do pheno hunting when you start with the hash. So if your goal first and foremost is the resin, then it comes down to it's easy to select for strains that make great hash. Like, but strains that make the best hash, and that's the difference. Like I've sat around a table with people and the greatest hash makers in the country, and everybody's whipping their dick out, and everybody's pulling the big
yeah,
jars out and showing off.
yeah,
And I'll be honest with you, out of the top tier strains that are truly 6 star, I mean, like everybody's got a strain they think is 6 star until you dab that shit, and then you Q-tip it, and you go, well, that wasn't quite what you sold it as, bud. And that happens a lot because, we all live in our little bubble, right? And to some degree, and you know what you see. And it's like once you get around the larger community and you see what's really out there and what some of the top dogs are doing, like I won't call a hash maker out, but I was hanging out with the cat at a cup and we walked from his booth to my booth, right? It had to have been 200 feet, 300 feet. This cat must have sold 50 grams, $200 a gram, no deals. And it was just people walking up to him like, hey, you got hash? Yeah, this is what you got. This is what you want. That's it. Take it, leave it. No soup for you if you got a problem with it. no deals. And I was just like, yeah, okay, okay. Now I get it, you know? And once again, this was somebody that taught me a lot as far as once I saw it at that moment, I realized that my bar of what I thought was the top was not as high as I thought it was. And this is somebody who's been growing weed and processing hash for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
There is that moment where you see that thing and you go, okay,
Aha.
there's a whole
Aha.
nother level.
Yeah.
There's a whole nother level. And dude,
Yeah, man.
this is somebody who's one of the most well decorated hash makers. So to say like, and once again, I don't,
Good.
you know, great
If
people
I
doing great hash. But I will say this: of the top three best grams of any hash that I ever had in my life, two of them were his
what
grams.
what color are they? What color was it? Because in the coffee shops in Spain, they have a multitude of different colors. Like they'll have the light brown, the dark brown, the super black, the
Okay,
super
so
oily black.
no. So like the first gram of this cat sift, right? Sift. It looked like Beach O. It literally, when I got it, you could see the granules. You could see the heads. As soon as it warmed up in your pocket, it just turned
Damn,
to shatter. It just turned to
damn.
shatter.
Nah,
There were
I've never
the
seen that shit.
two best grams that I ever had, and the third one came from my homie. It's Dr. Dank. I just want to give a shout out to him because I will shout him out. His Lemon Royale was the reason I went out and bought that strain to work with. It was the best rosin, top three
Damn,
best rosin I ever had. The two top hashes above that were 2 grams that I got at a cup that I traded the homie for. I gave him my hash for his hash, and I did not in the end feel like it was a fair trade because what I gave him was embarrassing compared to what he
wow,
gave me. The water
wow.
hash that I got was the same. When I got it, you could see where it had been pushed through a sieve, like it
Yeah,
literally tiny little golden globs. And as soon as it got pocket warm, it just turned into shatter. When you went to pull it off, it was just like a thing of BHO. It would flake like shatter and go everywhere. It was
bro.
solid.
I I'm so far off from making shit like that, bro. Because when I leave my shit on a car hood and it might not melt, bro. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? Like,
I've made greasy dank hash before, but like this stuff was, you know, to this day I'm still trying to find that.
yeah, shit, yeah, man. That shit sounds like some dank, bro. It
But I
melt in
mean,
your
that's why I
pocket.
said, like, when you start doing cups, I'm sorry, I'm trying to roll this joint. When you start doing cups and stuff, and you're like, not even the stuff that gets entered. Like when you're sitting around with hash makers and they're doing that thing that everybody loves to do, where they show off, and you see the shit that they're smoking, the pocket shit, the like, you know, it's just a small jar is what I got left type of shit, because that's what I've been smoking. Man, it really makes you realize, bro. It really makes you, and that's why I said that's the pursuit. Like that's that thing that makes you go out and constantly try to be a little bit better, a
Yeah,
little bit better,
for
because
sure.
that's that moment, you know, when you live in that bubble and you're used to seeing what you're used to seeing, and then you see something that's magnitudes better than what you've seen, you go, okay, cool,
Sure.
level up, yeah, level up. But no, I mean, you know, it was one of those things that like the hash world in general is a really funny thing because it while it's growing exponentially, it's definitely getting much bigger. It's still kind of a really small fraternity of people that
For sure.
make great hash,
For
you
sure.
know. And for me, it's one of the coolest things ever to just be around hash makers and talk and shop and to see some of the new innovations and things that are changing within the industry, like I said, all these new stainless steel units, and it's just super awesome, man. And it's super cool in the sense that while it's growing, it's also largely open source still. It's largely all still stuff that's been shared and talked about on forums, and It's one of those
Uh,
things that the coolest thing in the world is the explosion of the hash market in the world the last 10, 12 years.
Man, I think everything has become more about solventless and solvent, extractions. I don't really think people take the hash making, as serious as they did. I do because I feel like I hang around that circle, but I don't really hear many people talking about hash, bro.
Oh, you got to find better friends. I'm just
People
joking.
like you,
I'm just joking.
but
Like, yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, I
like
mean, it
people,
really is one of those things where it's like, it's still a very much a niche thing. Like it's getting bigger, but like people that are into and appreciate really, really good hash. I mean, it's still kind of the one thing as the market for weed has the bubble has popped and everything's kind of exploded the last couple years. Hash is still the one thing that still gets a premium. It's still the one thing that people, if you're making great hash, you can still get top dollar for it, and you're not having any problem moving it.
for sure,
No, I
it's
mean,
easy. Like out here, like I don't really see it,
yeah,
unless I
I
got
mean that's the other thing too. Like you're in a weird market. Like you guys have something that resembles legal, but like you guys don't kind of have the free for all that happens in like California and Colorado and Oregon and Washington. I mean, do you guys have records or just medical?
maybe 4 days now. It's been wrecked. So we're gonna see.
Oh,
We're gonna
okay.
see.
So you guys are 3 to 5 years away from really having a market that's popping.
Yeah,
Because the next 3 to 5 years, what will happen is it's a race to the bottom, and it's literally how everybody will try to produce as much weed as they can for as cheap as possible. Quality be damned. And then what eventually will happen is you'll start to find places that are willing to focus on quality because, I mean, let's be honest, there can only be so many Walmarts of weed, you know? And like, as soon as the state goes legal, the first thing that happens is everybody tries to grow as much as they can for as cheap as they can, which obviously that's always the goal. But like, it gets to a point where if you don't have acreage of canopy space, then you're not going to be able to compete. And let's be honest, you're going to get phased out of the market.
low brow. You're here in VA. You probably could speak to this too. But again, so we've become wrecked, but they really haven't defined what the fuck recreational looks like. Like, what's the plan? Why is it rec now and not only medical? Like, because there are no dispensaries. There's no rec with dispensaries that I know of, at least.
Really.
So I'm kind of confused. Like,
So
all right, we're
here's the other
recreationalists.
thing. Like in a lot of situations, when the state passes it, then what will happen is you'll have a bunch of different cities and municipalities and stuff, and some of them are cool with it, and some of them aren't. And some counties will vote and go and say, well, we don't want it here at all. Other counties will say, well, we want specific rules on where it can be sold, who can buy it, or how many dispensaries we can have. Some places will say, we only want there to be 5 dispensaries and you can only have 3 producers, and they limit
Mm,
how many places can grow, how many places. And what I'm saying about this, eventually they're gonna branch out. So what they'll do is they'll figure out what works and what doesn't. They'll start to adapt models of other states that work. Almost everybody rips off pieces of Colorado's legislation. I've probably seen more of Colorado's legislation in other states' bills than any other state. And it's largely because not only were they one of the first to go rec legal, but they were very aggressive. Like there was I think to this date, there's 400 plus dispensaries in Denver Metro. That's not counting the surrounding suburbs and all the other areas. So they went as hard as you wanted to go with it. And they made some mistakes early on. A lot of the things early on had to be changed and had to be, tweaked and had to be altered. And a lot of the growing pains that they went through a lot of states have said, oh, okay, well, we see you need to have pesticide laws from day one. You need to have testing. You need to have, some of these things that most people don't think about when you just hear it's rec legal now. We can just grow as much weed as we want. Let's just grow weed. And it's like,
Nope.
nah, man, that's how every state does it, and it backfires every
I was
single time.
hoping that with us going rec, they either take away the plant count or increase it, but they did neither. Which again, I don't understand what
Well,
recreational in Virginia means
here's
now.
the other thing. That generally, they don't give a shit about that. Generally, that's something that the people end up having to fight for, stuff like provisions for home grows and stuff like that. But I tell people the best thing that can happen from your state going legal is that now the priority for law enforcement is no longer trying to find every 2 and 3 light grow that's out there. Their priority is now going to be how do we get as much of our tax money out of these legal grows as we possibly can. So you, not you, but Joe Schmo home grower no longer really has to worry as much about their 4 or 5 lighter, their 2 tent grow, their small personal grow. You don't have to worry about that as much as you did when shit was illegal. So, that's the big thing I tell people. I don't know that I would, yeah, I don't, I'm trying to find a nice way to say this. I don't know that if I lived in a state that was rec legal, I would really trifle about plant counts as much as some people do,
Yeah,
in so long as you don't have just houses full of weed. There's obviously a point, and I'm not going to get into what should and
right.
shouldn't be allowed and legal. I'm just telling you, as a home grower, if you're somebody that wants to have your small little personal garden, you've got a shed or you've got a place where you can put 3 or 4 lights up, right? If you're in a rec legal state, your little home grow is not their priority anymore. Buy your carbon filters, make sure your neighbors don't know about it, keep your shit to yourself just so you don't get ripped off and your shit taken.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you don't necessarily need to worry as much as you did before it went rec legal and the cops were
Mm,
worried about every tiny little grow in the state.
mm. Yeah, what is plant count, honestly? But and and I wanted to give you a shout out to I think it's Shishka Boy 420. You said you was out in Hampton. Shout out to the Seven Cities, man. Thanks for watching.
Man, I spent a lot of time when I was when I was younger in and around Virginia, just traveling through for music and stuff. And man, it's a wild state. It's a wild state. It's just in the sense that like a lot of states have different niches, right? Atlanta
Yeah,
specifically is a great example of a city
yeah.
where one neighborhood can be right next to another neighborhood. They can be the polar opposites, but that's just life in Atlanta, right? Virginia's a lot like that. You've got a lot of the people that live and work in DC, or that work in DC, live in Virginia. So you've
Hmm.
got all that
Yeah.
all the politicians, you've got tons of money, but you've also got places like Richmond. That Richmond is largely a rough place to be if you're not in the right areas and knowing your P's and Q's, right? Richmond's just a strange city. But man, places like Virginia Beach, bro, I had a cop. I was in Virginia Beach in 98. I got in a little fender bender, nothing serious. Everybody was sober, nothing going on. I just changed lanes, didn't see the car. She bumped me in the rear end. So we get pulled
No,
over.
this we can't drive out here.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
It was
pathetic.
this was my fault. It was all my
No,
fault. So the cop comes up, realizes he's got 2 little hippie kids, and starts like. And first he asked me, "Can I search your car?" And I'm like, "Hell no, man. We're good. I got somewhere to be. Let's get this wrapped up as a ticket.
yeah,
Let's go." So the next thing I turn around and I see the dude going through my cooler, and I just go, "Listen, man. I might look stupid. I might look like a young hippie kid. I know I just told you you can't search my car. There's no reason here. There's no probable cause for you to be going through my cooler in any way, size, shape, or form, bro. Step the fuck back." And that was when I realized, bro, the Virginia Beach cops don't play.
no, yeah. They a different breed out here, man. Virginia Beach for sure. Um,
And it was all
they
good.
protect.
Everything was good. Everything was already well tucked and put away. And there was no concern that there was any, but it was just one of those where I realized real quick, like, if they'll do that, they'll do anything. They'll, if they'll do something like that, they'll do anything. If they'll completely disregard the law in that small moment, yeah, they'll do it. They don't give a shit.
And I stay away from them, I don't fuck with them, they don't fuck with me, we can keep it
Yeah,
like
I
that.
saw I saw two shows in Virginia Beach. I saw a show in '98. It was one of the best shows I ever saw. I saw a show in '99. It was one of the worst shows I ever saw, and not because of the music, just because of circumstance of being a dumb kid and just being with the wrong people and doing the wrong drugs at the wrong time.
Yeah, man. But I'm here for it, man. It seems like more and more people are starting to grow, and that's important to me. Um, I love talking cultivation, and
Here's what you
seems like
should do.
anywhere I go now.
Here's what you should do. You should find one of the bigger cities, right? One of the bigger cities in Virginia, and find out if there's dispensaries there. Like, just find out and take a day trip.
Yeah,
Go to a go to 3 or 4 dispensaries in one of the big cities, because that's usually where you're going to have dispensaries at all. Because, if you live in a kind of an outskirts city, you might have one dispensary in town, but you're not going to have, like, in Denver where there's 300, or in a metro where there's,
well,
Portland where there's 150 dispensaries or
no,
whatever.
that's just the thing. There are no dispensaries.
Correct.
They're medical dispensaries, but there are no, I guess, quote unquote, sanctioned um, recreational dispensaries that I know of.
Here's
Yeah,
what's funny. In
we have the
most states,
cannabis, we have bee leaf, we have fuck, what's the other one?
those are all the
Uh,
super corporate spots.
I forgot the other one, but yeah, man. And you have to have a card to get in.
See, here's what happens most of the time when you start with a medical program and then they pass rec. The goal is almost always to phase out medical altogether, almost immediately. Like within a couple years, that's their goal, is to phase out medical altogether, because they can charge more for rec weed. Because generally speaking, rec weed is tourist weed, and they just, that's the way it's looked at. And so in Colorado, as soon as they fucking started rec, almost every place bought a rec license and started phasing out all of their medical
Now
stuff,
that's what
because that's how
I thought was going to
that's
happen.
a
That's
lot of states license it. Is you have to have different licenses for medical and for rec. And for a lot of places, they just go, well, I don't see the point in carrying all this medical, and we got to do cards and we got to do all this other stuff. Where with most rec, you just walk in, show an ID, and it's just, you just buy
yeah.
your weed.
I like I said, so I go to the one off of Seabird, here in Virginia Beach, and there's I mean, I'm sorry, not Seabird. Seaboard is in Portsmouth, but the facility is in Portsmouth, bro. And again, I would like to tour and see what they got going on back there.
But that's
Somebody
actually,
asked a question, bro,
oh, go ahead.
about your genetics. I wanted you to answer. Let me see if I can find it for you.
Oh, that's the other reason they don't like them taxes on that medical. They don't tax medical the same way they do rec weed. Some places have up to
Yeah.
30% tax on fucking on rec weed. Anyway,
Oh, here it is, right here.
we got about 6 or 7 minutes left.
Someone asked, "What can?" He said, "While I got you, Terp, what can I expect of the morphology wise from the Ultimate Flex?"
Not too much stretch, medium height plant. Yields really well. I just ran a bunch of them. Didn't have one that got super lanky on me, but it usually depends on veg time. If you give them a ton of veg time, they might stretch a little more. I would say above average yield. I mean, not a super low yielder, but not biggest buds you ever seen. Depends on your grow style too and your techniques. Kind of a heavy garlic, chemi funk profile. The Ultimate Flex is one of those that a lot of people hit me up about hash strains, and that's generally one that I like to push. The Garlic Breath did really well. I had 10 to big trikes.
Oh man,
I've
they
seen
got
some.
garlic breath. Is it?
Yeah,
What is it?
it's a Garlic Breath white cherry wedding cake.
Oh,
So it's kind of cushy, kind of chemy, but it didn't have as much stretch as the garlic breath did. Garlic breath stretched on me a lot more.
I gotta go
And you'll
check the
pop some.
website out, bro. Sounds like something I want to run.
I got plenty of them. Just let me know. I'll send you some.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's wrap it up. Mac, thank you. Always awesome. And people know where to find us at this point. You can find him at the Real Mac Blunts at the Real Mac Blunts. You can catch me here, Instagram or www.turpfiend.com. Man, maybe we'll get on and do some zombie streams soon or something. Some
Oh man, that'd
streams.
be dope.
I've been playing a ton, man, and I've learned a bunch of tips and tricks, and everybody's cheating. So I figured out how to get all the fancy guns you're not supposed to have, and like
Okay.
all of the extra weapons and all the good stuff. So I'll have to get you on that.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
yeah, man, let's try and do these once a week. Get back on a roll. I want to get back to doing the other podcasts too, and also go check out the Business is Blooming podcast with the homie Mac. He's been on
Link in
top of them
bio.
and knocking those
Link in
out.
bio.
They're getting more and more professional looking. He's making me look bad, so I need to get my shit together and get some camera work and get some edits and get me a producer and all of that good stuff.
Yeah, man. It takes a village to do it, bro. But
Man, it's been
you'll be
looking
on my
great.
show.
They've been getting better and better, and everyone I've watched has been really good. So go check them out. Thanks, guys. Y'all have a good one. Have a good week. We'll see you next week. Peace.